Welcome to the Spectator's Creepy Tales. These are top 4 encounters with evil. So be prayerful and mindful of who you allow in your presence. Take heed, sit back, and let the silence fill your abode. Now open your eyes. Tale 1. I rarely went out because I was somewhat of a wallflower. My sister wanted me to get out and have fun with her. We went to this club that, for legal reasons, I will call the Circle. Well, once we entered, the music was so loud that I could feel the vibrations of the bass through the floor. The room was a little dim, but the lights were on at the bar. That night was lip sync night, which was similar to karaoke. People were getting ready to perform. We also saw a guy who was a known AIDS carrier trying to convince women to talk to him. The only reason we were aware of his circumstance is his mother told someone we knew that she was concerned for her son. He has AIDS and he was still sleeping around and not alerting the women who he had contacted. As my sister and I watched the performances, a guy walked over and commenced talking to my sister. This cat came out of nowhere. I mean, I didn't see him coming. He was dark-skinned, well-built, and he was about 5'9" in height. He was drinking, but I can tell that he was fully alert. I didn't like his eyes though. They were dark and void of honesty. My sister was kind and was talking to him. On the other hand, I was wondering who he was. Like I said, I rarely go anywhere, but I had been to this club before. Yet I never saw this dude. My sister then introduced him to me. I will call him Mr. Vault. Moreover, he extended his hand, and we shook hands. Next, he asked us if we wanted something to drink. Of course, I declined, but my sister told him yes. As a waitress passed, Mr. Vault stopped her and ordered a drink for my sister. While he was talking to the waitress, I asked my sister, "Who is this guy?" She told me that she met him before, but she had not seen him in a while. When he returned, he continued to talk to my sister. Soon a waitress came and gave my sister the drink. The night progressed fine, and soon it was time for the club to close. My sister said goodnight to Mr. Vault, but he insisted on walking us to the car. He felt that it was unsafe for 2 females to walk alone. As we proceeded to the car, I began complaining that it was very dark. Really, I was faking the funk to make this guy think that I was strapped, so I started reaching in my purse. My sister glanced at me as if she knew that something was up, so she did the same. Mr. Vault must have thought that we had a weapon, so he waited until we got into my sister's car and then he walked away. After that night, it was a while before I went back to that club. My sister had to stop for a while because she began to work 2 jobs. One day my sister came over to visit and she told me how the Lord had protected her even in her sinful state. There was a picture of this guy in the newspaper. I'm shaking as I write this story. The same guy who was trying to talk to my sister in the club, bought her a drink and walked us to the car was twisted. He was arrested for SA and harming an elderly lady. Only, God knows what would have happened if my sister had given him a chance and went out with him. She said she never felt comfortable with him. She said that he seemed to be gentlemanlike, but she felt that he was sneaky. His charming demeanor was just a facade. It's good that my sister followed her hunch. Fortunately, she never gave him her telephone number or address. She lived alone, and if he had attacked my sister, no one would have been there to save her. I must warn you ladies, to sound the alarm because the club is not the best place to meet the man of your dreams. There was a guy with AIDS picking up women and a SA criminal doing the same in this club. So beware.
Tale 2. My best friend Panda and I wanted to go out, so we went to this club called The Curve. As I walked inside, the music was on point. The deep, rich sound of the drums reverberated like a heartbeat. The room was dim, but flashing lights made possible to see everyone who were there that night. Panda and I were in the right place, and this was going to be a night to remember. We walked around chatting with familiar friends until we found a table in a corner. Immediately, a waitress came over and we ordered drinks. As the night progressed, we danced and was having a good time. Nothing can go wrong, right? When we were returning to our table, I heard someone call my name. When I looked around, I saw a person walking in the dimly lit room. He came out of nowhere like a passing shadow. As he neared me, I was wondering who this man was. Then emerging from the dark room, I saw him. I realized that it was a former schoolmate of mine. I will call him Donnie Creeper. He came over to the table where I was sitting. He spoke to me and my friend. Then he took the liberty to join us. I have known Donnie Creeper for a long time, so he was like a relative to me. That night, Donnie expressed to me that he always liked me, and he wanted us to date. I told him that we had been friends for years and we attended the same school together. Therefore, he was like a cousin to me, or so I thought. Yet he insisted that we get together, and he became annoying. He followed me around and made my night unbearable. I was basically off limits because he was in my face all night. So I had to devise a plan. I talked him into buying several beers. He asked me to dance with him, and that was my strategy too. We danced because I knew that the beers would kick in sooner or later and he would have to use the bathroom. I informed my friend Panda of my intentions. Donnie was a smooth criminal. Although he was not very attractive, he thought that he was God's gift to women. Yet he was at that club tonight just for me. He had several more drinks. He bought me and my friend drinks too. He drank and drank until he was intoxicated. Yet being inebriated didn't stop him from gulping down large quantities of alcoholic beverages. I thought to myself, what is wrong with this guy? He was really creeping me out. He kept his eyes on me and barely blinked. Soon I noticed that he was staggering his way around the dance floor. He was really getting on my nerves. Donnie Creeper was breathing his bad breath in my face and his eyes were red like I was dancing with the devil. My plan was working though. He drank and drank like he was drowning in his sorrows. He was not aware of what I was doing. He just wanted to get high, and he persuaded himself that he was going to have me for the night. He did not realize that Panda and I had been sipping our drinks. We wanted to be sober enough to get away from him. He looked so evil, and it appeared as if I was facing a demon. Soon he started looking as if he was uncomfortable. Maybe drinking all of those beers, among the other beverages he gulped down, was taking an effect. As the wee hours of the morning approached, it was evident that Donnie was so drunk that he could barely stand. It was coming close to the time for me to make that move. As I watched Donnie put down one drink after another, I thought to myself, dance. Dance. Because you have no chance for romance. At least not with me. This same dimly lit room and flashing lights will be my friend tonight. Finally, he excused himself and said that he had to go to the bathroom. When Donnie Creeper went to the restroom to relieve himself, my friend Panda and I left the club. As we walked away from the table where we were sitting, my friend and I had to rush out of the club. We didn't want Donnie to see us leaving. I was adamant that he was not going to find us. We maneuvered our way through the crowd of people until we made it outside of the club. We commenced to speed walking because running may have garnered attention. We didn't need no bystanders telling Donnie which direction we went. Every now and then looking back, we strategized our next course of action. Second by second and minute by minute, we moved through the bustling crowd. It was indeed a lot of people there that night, which was in our favor. We were able to hide in that crowd. Once we made it through the throng of people, Panda and I ran like hell was pursuing us. I was indeed eluding a monster for sure. We were running so fast because we wanted to get as far away from the club as possible. I was determined that I did not want Donnie to see us walking down any of the familiar streets. We did not run down Montgomery Street, but we ran down Martin Luther King Boulevard to Burroughs Street. In this area, we occasionally hid behind some bushes. We knew that we had to keep moving so that we could make it to safety. Hiding and watching every passing car, we wanted to make sure that we were not being followed. Then we ran some more. That foreboding feeling of danger overcame me. Gloom and fear overshadowed me like I was issued a death sentence. When I saw some bushes a few feet away, we hid again. I just felt that we were not safe. The cold chill that night that lingered alerted me that he was somewhere lurking. To our amazement, Donnie was driving around and looking for me. I saw him actually hunting for me as he slowed down at the corner and the streetlight revealed his face. He looked left to right. For some reason, this guy really did not take rejection well, or he had ulterior motives. It seemed as if, for a moment, he was looking in the direction where we were hiding. Panda and I was very still, for we did not want to alert him to where we were. Panda whispered her concern.
Girl, I am so scared. I have to use the bathroom.
Oh my goodness. Really? Panda really made me upset. I didn't want this guy to discover our location. I asked her if she could hold it until we made it to my place. Suck it up and hold it, Panda.
Girl, I can't. I was drinking too. While you was sipping, I got carried away. That drink was good.
Oh boy. You're kidding, right? Panda, please tell me that you're joking right now. Why did I think that Panda would have been able to go along with the plan? She was intoxicated too. She knew that I was upset and she tried to defend herself.
Shamia, those Patron shots was hitting.
That's why I told you to sip your drink, Panda.
Whatever, Shamia, but I got to go.
Well, we are hiding in bushes. Let it flow, Panda.
Never mind, Shamia. I'll hold it.
Yeah, do that. The streets is so quiet, and he probably would hear you using the bathroom. Panda looked around and she grew more concerned for me.
Gosh, Shamia. What's the deal? Did y'all date before?
Girl, no. Panda, I never liked him that way. I only saw him as a friend. It's something's not right here, Panda. Something is wrong. You know, at times, the same people you went to school with can turn out to be murderers and God knows what else. We cannot let this guy find us. We're just a couple of minutes from my apartment. You stay over tonight because I don't trust him.
You won't get no fight from me, but if he gets out his car and come over here, I'm going to beat him so bad that his next generation will feel it.
I knew that Panda had my back. We both were tired and wanted to get off the streets. Dang, Panda. I'm glad we hanging tonight. When the coast is clear, we are going to run again.
But what if he's parked around the corner and waiting on us?
That's a chance we have to take. We have to be careful to peek and hide. I hate this, but it's the only way we can stay out of his view. You trust me and he will not find us tonight or ever.
Okay, Shamia. I trust you. Let's do this.
I needed the self-encouragement, but I was so afraid. I knew when a guy was persistent in getting with a woman, there is usually an underlying reason. Ladies don't assume that he really think that you're cute and that you have a physique that men would die for. He is being a nuisance with a purpose in mind. Donnie was consuming a lot of alcohol, probably because something was heavily on his mind. Before we could leave from behind the bushes, we saw his car approaching. He drove down the street and he circled the area again. He did this several times. Then, for a moment, he stopped and waited at the corner. He was looking around again as if he was contemplating which way to turn. I could see him, but he couldn't see me and Panda. Then he made a right and drove in the direction that we needed to go to get to my apartment. However, we had to go that way. Despite trying to avoid danger, we had to move in dark areas. We continued to hide behind bushes, cars, and whatever that would conceal us. We had to walk down the way that he was now driving. Any other route would have been dark and placed us in danger from other night walkers. Donnie Creeper continued to drive around the area 3 more times. His radio played the same song, and we knew when he was approaching. He was relentless and was searching for me like a cop searching for a criminal. He did this for a while. Panda and I continued to hide until we saw his car no more. Evidently, he gave up on ever finding me. We crept ever so cautiously until we didn't see him again. This night was very intense. By chance, my friend and I ran avoiding approaching cars. We were running down dark lanes praying not to be spotted by him or worse be assaulted by strangers. I was so afraid that Donnie Creeper would see me because he was acting like a predator. When we made it to my place, we were so glad to be safe and off the streets. I didn't have to worry about dodging every car and looking over my shoulder anymore. We were safe. Donnie did not know where I lived, so I didn't have any more worries. I still had the urge to look out the window just to be certain that we were not followed. I thanked God for protecting me. A year later, I was informed that Donnie Creeper died of AIDS. He was basically the carrier, and he infected a lot of women. I am so glad that I followed my instincts and got away from him, or I would have been his next victim. Ladies and gentlemen, beware. The handsome guy or the beautiful woman will not always be honest, but they will leave you with a package that will affect you for the rest of your life. Be safe.
Tale 3. My name is Tucker, and this is a remarkable story. I met Boris Nolan one strange night. The moon was full, but it wasn't the usual white color. It was a weird yellow color, and it appeared to be closer to the Earth than it should be. Although the moon is estimated to be 238,855 miles away from Earth, it looked like it was so close that an airplane could land on it. Well, that night I had been drinking. I had the need for speed, so I was driving my car at a pace above 100. I thought that I was fast and furious until I hit a parked car. I got out of the car and noticed that some of the paint from my car was left on the car that I hit. There were also some teenagers hanging outside, so I know that they will be witnesses. I returned to my car and drove away. I knew if I stayed behind and been truthful, the cops would smell me. I reeked of alcohol. Plus, my breath was a telltale sign that I was not drinking water or sodas. I was sure to be facing charges of DUI. Besides, I was only 19 years old. I thought of these scenarios as I raced home. I managed to park my car in the garage and then I rushed into the house. My parents were asleep, so they did not realize that I had come in late. It was 2 a.m. I was drunk and high. No need to explain that part, but I was sick. My head was hurting, and I was mad hungry. I couldn't eat because I was scared of what had taken place. I crept upstairs to my room. It took me a long time to get up those stairs. My mind was saying walk fast, but my feet was saying, I'm creeping because I don't want to get caught by my dad. Well, I made it to my room. I closed the door slightly and then I laid across my bed. My mind was spinning, and my stomach was churning. I was afraid because I didn't know what was going to happen. Maybe I should have stayed at the scene. Was it too late for me to turn myself in? It was a parked car, but as I drove away, I saw that there was a couple inside. I wish I knew someone who could help me out of this crisis. I went online and searched for an attorney that piqued my interest. I needed someone who was not going to judge that I was a teenager and not of the legal age for drinking. I needed someone that was going to help me. I just wanted it all to go away. There were so many names of lawyers that displayed their specializations that it was hard to choose from. I went on the websites and looked at their customers' ratings and the amount of star ratings. I found some interesting attorneys, but I knew that the fees would burn my pockets. Finally, I came upon an ad with the words "Midnight Lawyer." The ad read, "If you did the crime, I've got the time to hear your offense and not criticize. My prices are reasonable, it may not cost you a dime. I have various plans and rates that will ease your troubled mind. Sin is sin and I'm the ultimate fixer to eradicate the problem. I'm good at what I do and you won't see a conviction. Just give me a call and let's make a deal. I'm the Midnight Lawyer, come join my team. I decided to call this dude. He sounded like the real deal. I made the call, but when the phone rang, I hung up. I didn't know what to say or how to explain what I did. Suddenly, my cell phone rang. I had my headset on, so I answered the phone. Hello. There was a pause and then I heard the sinister voice of a man on the other end.
Hello. Did someone just call from this number?
Yes. I did. I saw your ad in the phone book.
Okay, very well. How can I be of service, young man?
Well, I might as well get to the point.
Yes. Feel free to tell me what's going on.
I don't know, but this man's voice really bothered me. He sounded evil, but I had no choice. He probably sounded like that because I woke him up. He is a lawyer, and I needed advice. My name is Tucker, and I was drinking and driving. I hit someone. I hit a parked car.
Oh my. Did you?
Yes, sir. I did. Oh no.
What's the matter, son?
I think a couple was in the car making out. They may be hurt, and I drove away. I'm in trouble. There was a pause again and then the man spoke again.
Can we meet Tucker?
I know that there was an urgency to my situation, yet this was sudden. He calls himself the Midnight Lawyer, and apparently he sees clients after the midnight hours. Nonetheless, I was still intoxicated. Plus, I definitely did not want my parents to know so soon about what I did. Right now? Seriously?
Yes, right now. You wouldn't have to go far. I can drive right up to your house, or I could meet you on the corner. We can talk in my car.
I thought to myself, is this really a lawyer? I really needed the help, but I was wondering about this guy. Was he for real? Because most counselors want to meet in their office. Attorneys usually send a paralegal or an investigator to the house of an accident victim or so. I did know that much. My cousin is a paralegal, but she lives in Canada. I really needed the local help, so I consented to meet with this strange man. He may be like the Lincoln Lawyer or something. That was a good movie, so I was hopeful. Although I agreed to meet the Midnight Lawyer, I also decided to have the guy to meet me on the corner. I didn't want my parents to wake up and be concerned about me having a stranger in the house. I put on my coat and crept down the stairs. When I opened the door, the man was standing on the porch. He scared me and I was wondering what he was doing at my house. He didn't even knock on the door. He was just standing on the porch. I told you that I would meet you on the corner.
I'm not the Midnight Lawyer. My name is Wilhelm Henley. I'm his private investigator, driver, and bodyguard. He is on the corner waiting. I just wanted to bring you to him. Is that all right?
Okay. How did you know where I stay?
Your house is the only residence with the light on. It foretells an expectancy. Besides, if you are as good as me, you can find anyone. Are you ready?
I looked back hoping not to awake my parents.
Don't worry, Tucker. I will have you back before you can cough from the night air.
Okay, whatever that means.
Excuse me?
Oh, I said I'm ready. Wilhelm yawned.
Okay, let's go.
As we walked down the street, I noticed that Wilhelm seemed tired. Man, your eyes are red. Why is that?
I hardly ever sleep. I've been working for Mr. Boris for a long time, and I never recalled him sleeping either. If he supposedly gets tired, he just sits still and stares as if he's in a trance. It's probably something that you or I can't see, but I guess that's how he sleeps. Oftentimes, he's like that for hours. It's almost like he's getting instructions from someone. Despite all that, he wins his cases. In regard to me, whenever I find the time to sleep, I do it. When he gets a call, I have to wake up and go to work. There is always cases that I have to investigate, and complete for the Midnight Lawyer. I have a bigger commitment to him than you do.
Okay. You need to sleep more because you look like a vampire. You were standing on my porch like you wanted to be invited in. I didn't know if I needed a wooden stake, garlic, or a crucifix. Wilhelm chuckled and then he stopped me. He looked at me and what he said next made me even more concerned.
You humor me. Look, kid, just make sure that you listen carefully and read the fine print before making any agreement. If you don't understand, let the Midnight Lawyer know. He's under obligation to explain the intake process and everything that you will be signing. Right now, meeting him on the corner is the intake process. You seem to be smart, so make sure that you read before signing. Okay?
I saw that Wilhelm was serious, and it seemed like a warning to me. Sure. I will pay attention. The guy was creepy, but for some reason I believe that he does have some good in him. We walked down the street until we came to a four-way stop. We were at the crossroads. I'm supposed to meet dude on the corner. This is way far from my house.
Calm down, Tucker. I know, and everything around you may look different. When the fog lifts, you will see that you are closer to your home than what you think. The Night Lawyer likes to first meet his clients at any place that resembles the crossroads.
The streetlight went out and then suddenly a man appeared. He was dressed in a black suit, shiny black shoes and a black hat. He had a cigar in his mouth and a switchblade in his hand. He scared me, so I backed up a little. Man, what are you doing with a switchblade? The lawyer saw that I had backed up and he smiled.
This is not a good area, my son. Many bad things have occurred around here. Am I right about it?
For true. Yes, things has happened around here, but pulling a switchblade out like that makes me uncomfortable.
My apologies. Please allow me to introduce myself. My name is Boris Nolan, also known as the Night Lawyer, or you may have read, I'm Midnight Lawyer. Where most lawyers would charge a retainer's fee, this is a consultation in which there is no cost. However, if you choose not to accept me as your attorney, I am obligated as an officer of the court to report what you have told me.
What? Huh? I thought that what I told you would be confidential. Now I feel like I'm being strong-armed.
Only once you have retained me as your lawyer, whatever you tell me is confidential. Look, kid, I'm just giving you the facts. I don't want you to feel strong-armed to do anything. You will make the ultimate decision on your own, but I can make this all go away. I just ask that once I deliver you from this quandary, you will work for me. I will like a smart kid like you on my team, and the earnings is quite well.
Work for you? I looked at Wilhelm. He just looked at me and then he looked down. I reflected on his warning about listening carefully and being careful about what I sign. Can I think it over? All of this is rather sudden.
Think it over? Sure. I will give you 3 days, and at 12 midnight, on the third night, I want your decision. All right?
Okay. Mr. Boris extended his hand to me. You want me to shake your hand? That's a sign of agreement.
You're right, son, but it's also a kind gesture.
I shook Mr. Boris's hand and held on to it, and then I made a declaration. I'm shaking your hand as a kind gesture and not an agreement. Mr. Boris looked at me, then at Wilhelm and back at me. Then he laughed. He did not expect me to say that. I did not trust him. I sensed a hint of an evil gangster about him. I don't even think that he was a lawyer. I knew that there had to be some way to get out of this mess. I had hit a parked car, but I was drunk and high. I just met him, and he wanted me to work for him. I didn't know what kind of work he wanted me to do, but it seemed like a bad deal. Wilhelm looked tired and he seemed as if he was bound by a deal. Walking away, as the fog cleared, I noticed that I was 5 minutes away from where I lived. As time progressed, I was still uncertain. I could not find anything about the Midnight Lawyer. His ad was no longer online. I was beginning to see that he was shady, and I could possibly be making a deal with the devil. What kind of work could he possibly have me to do? Late one night there was a knock on my door. My parents were not home, and I was alone. I looked through the peephole and saw that it was Boris. I opened the door. "Hey, Mr. Boris. What's going on? I have one more day."
I know. I just wanted to make sure that you thought about the offer, but first, invite me inside.
He sounded like Dracula because he asked to be invited inside. "You need me to invite you inside? That sounds sinister."
Of course not. Tucker, I can't just take it upon myself and enter your house. It will be like breaking and entering.
Mr. Boris Nolan was really pissing me off, and I needed him to be gone before my parents returned home. "Man, just come on in." Mr. Nolan did not enter the house. He looked at me and made a profound statement.
You will learn that I can't just walk in. You as a resident of the house has to invite me in.
"Okay. You are welcome to come into my parents' house."
Thank you.
When Boris stepped into my house, there was a weird sound like he came over into my world from another realm.
Cozy. Look, son, I'm not trying to rush you regarding your decision. However, I must tell you that I went to access the scene of the accident. The police were there, and I heard that 2 people were in critical condition. I must say, son, you've gotten yourself in a mess.
Critical condition? I didn't think that I hit the car that hard.
Well, one never knows quite what he does when he's inebriated.
What?
Intoxicated.
I became annoyed. "Man, please. Don't use legal jargon or long words that I don't understand. Just be straight and plain."
No. Don't get bouncy with me, son. I'm here to help you, and I do everything by the book. It's just something that you have to consider when making your final decision. I will be seeing you tomorrow at 12 midnight.
I was upset because that was the only thing that Mr. Boris was talking about. I was anxious to see him leave. I could not sleep because I was worried about the 2 people that were in the car that I hit. I made up my mind that I would ask my cousin that works at the hospital if there were any accident victims admitted there. I took some over-the-counter sleeping pills. I fell asleep and awakened 10 o'clock the next morning. Before I did anything, I called my cousin who worked in the emergency room. I was able to track him down, and I explained to him everything that happened in regard to the accident. He warned me that I need to stop drinking and getting high. He further chastised me by saying that I should not be using illegal substances, drinking, and driving. Then I asked him if there were any accident victims admitted recently. He said that he would call me back. I paced the floor contemplating what to do. If I turn myself in, I will have a record, but if I accept Boris's deal, only God knows what will happen. Suddenly, my cousin called back. He said that there were no accident victims admitted to the hospital in a week. He said that he even checked with other hospitals and there were no accident victims that fit my description. I was glad to know that. He told me that there was a man and woman that died from gunshot wounds. He also said that police were investigating it because the couple's car was banged up like they had been in an accident. This case was a homicide. I became really afraid. What if the couple that was in the car that I hit was already dead? By me not reporting what I did, I could be in worser trouble. I told my parents what happened. They were pissed and they told me that I needed to report the incident. They drove me to the police department and went with me inside. I met with a sergeant and told him what happened. The sergeant told me that there were no reports about an accident on the street that I mentioned. He asked me if I thought that it was a nightmare. I told him no. He said that the couple that was found dead in a wrecked car was a homicide. He said that it was still under investigation. He told me that I was free to go, and for future notice, don't drink and drive. I was so glad to have that burden from off of me. As my parents and I were leaving the building, I saw a mugshot of a guy that looked like the Midnight Lawyer. So I asked the desk sergeant about the picture. He said that the photo is of a man. They didn't know his real name because he used several aliases. However, no attorney or judge ever heard of him. Yet, this guy was going around claiming to be a lawyer to represent people, but he really was a con man. Apparently, he may have gone to law school but didn't pass the bar exam. This guy, who looked like Mr. Boris Nolan, had a detailed plan about what to do if a person needed his services. He would listen to their complaint and then he would concoct a story that a person committed a crime. Next, he will act as if he wants to represent them. Once the call is made to this lawyer, he investigates you, watches you, and studies you enough to form an elaborate scheme. His plan is to bamboozle people into thinking that they are in trouble. If the person may not be interested in retaining him as their lawyer, then he will gain leverage to blackmail the person. So I decided that I will not comply with the midnight lawyer's offer. Later that night, I received a phone call. It was Wilhelm calling me to meet the midnight lawyer on the corner. I told him that I was not going to meet with him or the lawyer. I'll take my chances. I hung up the phone. Next, I turned over to go to sleep and was awakened by the lawyer and two other men that I could not identify. Dude was mad and there was a drastic change in his voice.
Nobody backs out on me. Either you consent to the offer, or you will go to jail.
I don't think so. I checked behind you and I turned myself into the police. You have nothing on me. That's when I realized that I wasn't dealing with no ordinary man. He removed his hat, and I saw the midnight lawyer's true form. He looked like the Joker from Batman but more menacing.
You think that you could outsmart me? I will unalive you.
Right then the police rushed in and arrested the lawyer and his two goons. While at the precinct, my parents were concerned that Mr. Nolan would return. So, there were plainclothes officers assigned to watch the house. I was glad that the midnight lawyer was being arrested, but the terrifying aspect of this situation was that the lawyer smiled at me, and his eyes never left me. He made a menacing sound as he giggled. I will never forget that sound. This man never blanked, and his malevolent smile plagued my thoughts. When he was placed in the police car, he looked up at my bedroom window and smiled again. Later that night, I was watching the news waiting to hear about the midnight lawyer's arrest. To my dismay, I heard about the two men that was with him were detained. Yet the midnight lawyer escaped. A man dressed like an officer, probably Wilhelm, came with paperwork and he claimed that he was to transfer Boris Nolan to another prison. Apparently, he was to be extradited because of crimes he committed in other states. Wilhelm probably heard about it by being present at Mr. Nolan's arraignment. He then devised a plan to have him taken away never to be prosecuted. When the real officers came to get Mr. Boris Nolan, he was already gone. They were outsmarted. I don't know how they did it, but they got away with it. Now he is wanted by FBI not only because of the escape, but because he has unalived people to extort money from others. When he was arrested, before the escape, Mr. Boris was fingerprinted. It turned out that he was a real attorney. His name was not Boris Nolan. That was one of his aliases, but his real name was mentioned. This man was disbarred for his criminal habits. Now I have to watch my back because this guy feels that I betrayed him. Every now and then I see that demented, smiling face of Mr. Nolan in my room. I wake up every time to see that it was only a nightmare. Yet I still feel that he is somewhere watching me and waiting for the chance to get even with me.
Tale 4. In an apartment complex where several tenants were missing, an elderly woman, a retired nurse, who resided in apartment 203, was experiencing some strange phenomenon. It left her frightened and up late at night that she barely got any sleep. Miss Agatha Archibald called the police a lot because she said that she heard screaming and knocking coming from her next-door neighbor's apartment. When the police went to check apartment 205, an elderly man answered the door. He resided there with his wife. The couple appeared as if they were unharmed or not in any immediate danger. Therefore the police dismissed Miss Agatha's complaints. However, night after night she heard the agonizing screams of someone in the next-door apartment. Finally, she went to the precinct, talked to Detective Tom Hughes to express her concerns about her neighbors. He visited the couple and found that there was no cause for alarm. He was concerned for Miss Agatha. Either she was hearing something or was hallucinating. However, Detective Hughes continued to find answers to her problem. Upon investigation, he did discover that a person was murdered in the apartment next door, and it has remained unsolved for 10 years. Nevertheless, another homicide occurred a year before in that same apartment. Yet this occurred before the elderly couple moved in. So what was it that Miss Agatha Archibald was hearing? Miss Agatha knows for sure what she was hearing from the next-door apartment. Abruptly, the screaming ceased, and the old lady stopped calling the police. By a mere hunch, Detective Hughes wanted to talk to the elderly couple. Perhaps they may have known the person that lived in the apartment before them. When the authorities arrived to do a well check on the elderly couple, they found the apartment empty. Detective Hughes went next door to check on the old lady. Miss Agatha Archibald was doing fine, but she said that the screaming stopped. She said she guessed her neighbors got tired of her complaints and moved. Suddenly, Officer Herman Johnson urged Detective Hughes to come back into the empty apartment. The other officers followed, for there was something that had to be seen. Once inside, they discovered several tapes in a box. The tapes were taken to police headquarters, and they were viewed by Detective Hughes, 2 other detectives, and the police chief. To their horror, it displayed people being tortured and unalived by the elderly couple. After the death of the victims, the murderers would turn away from the camera, yet they held up their mask. Disturbingly, this was a show of contempt that no one would ever learn of their identity. Apparently, the elderly neighbors of Ms. Agatha were killers wearing masks. The mask they wore of an elderly couple were not left behind. Still, there may have been DNA evidence present. Unfortunately, the real people were yet to be identified. Now the police has no clue as to what happened to this estranged yet deadly couple. In her later years, when she turned 89 years wiser, Ms. Agatha Archibald was placed in a long-term healthcare facility. She developed dementia, which soon progressed to Alzheimer's disease. She required around-the-clock care. As her former apartment complex was being renovated, several human bones were found under the floorboards in the apartment next door to Miss Archibald's former residence. However, more remains were discovered in the floorboards of Miss Archibald's apartment. Over time, with the help of a specialist in forensic odontology, the medical examiners confirmed that the remains were of missing tenants that lived next door to Miss Archibald. Another gruesome discovery disturbed the officers, detectives, and especially Detective Hughes. The couple that were known as Bobby and Lila McGrath were the serial killers that lived next door to Miss Agatha. They were found deceased too. Their remains along with their masks were discovered in a crawl space in Miss Archibald's living room. Their evil mask covered their faces. Upon removal of the mask, the couple looked terrified. I guess they met someone more horrific than the two of them. It was determined that the former nurse killed her neighbors or anyone that lived in the apartment next to her. She valued silence, and anyone that violated that tranquility felt her wrath. The time of death of the victims were the amount of time that Miss Agatha Archibald lived in the apartment, which was a span of 20 years. Former tenants of the complex were astonished to learn that Nurse Agatha Archibald, a name that graced her with being kind-hearted, was really a serial killer. Being that she was a nurse, anyone that was sick went to her for advice about different ailments. She would always mix a concoction of homemade remedies, and the person would feel better. Those whose symptoms worsen, if they were good people, she would make sure that they were taken by ambulance to the local hospital. Others who were sick and was a menace to the complex were never seen again. Yet no one attributed missing persons to the petite little nurse in apartment 203. Everyone who resided in the complex called her Nurse Agatha. Oftentimes, she would render advice in which she expressed to them to maintain their health by keeping their doctor's appointments, eating wholesome meals, and exercising. Pharmacists knew her and respected her. Nurse Agatha always suggested that the sick, especially children, were to be taken to the emergency room or to the pediatrician. She would even call the doctors of those who were sick, had no one to care for them but were respectable neighbors. Only those who angered her felt her wrath. Miss Archibald was also a great cook who baked cookies, pies, and cakes for the residents of the apartment complex. She cooked holiday meals for families who were struggling financially. She taught CPR and first aid, and held exercise classes. Everyone had kind words for her and still did not utter a negative comment about her. To many people, Miss Archibald was a saint. To the police she was cynical, demented, and a methodical killer. Now that Miss Archibald is feeble-minded, the police cannot question her or arrest her. She now resides in an assisted living facility. Yet Detective Hughes felt that there were a lot of unanswered questions. Looking at Miss Agatha Archibald's medical records, she had different dates of birth. So no one truly knew how old she was. The detective could not sleep, so he decided to ride out to the assisted living facility. He wanted to at least talk to a nurse on staff. When he arrived there, the place was in an uproar. He saw 2 police cars, so he entered the place. He saw one of the officers and decided to talk to him. Detective Hughes was astonished to hear that one of the residents was missing. That resident was Agatha Archibald. She was on the run, and he knew that she had a lot of people that still held allegiance to her. She was never seen again. Perhaps she has moved to another apartment complex, or she may just be that new neighbor next door to you. If I were you, I would not have any parties too soon. Above all else, be quiet.
Quiet, please. Final warning.
Thanks for listening to the top 4 encounters with evil from The Spectator. Be on the lookout for part 2 to the top 4 encounters with evil. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Remember that The Spectator is watching to add a new tale to the creepy tales.